Welcome to this week's 168. You can subscribe to these videos on YouTube or you can follow us on Twitter.
So it's funny because just a few hours ago I was sitting with some friends and we were talking about an escape room. Maybe you're familiar with those, where you get a group of people and you go in this room and there's all these clues and different things that lead you to this point where hopefully you can escape from the room in a certain amount of time. And I just I've done 3 of these, and I just love them each time because it's so fun to look around and see there's pictures on the wall, and there's things on the desk, and there's drawers you can open, and there's little trinkets, and everything has the possibility of being a new clue. And so you're constantly turning things over and looking at different things and trying to figure out what's the next clue, what's the next clue, what's the next clue. But one of the things I love about it most is that just when you think you're almost there, there'll be this clue that will reveal another room. It'll be a hidden door that will open up, and there's all these other clues. And it's like the tables are being turned or the script's being flipped in that moment, and you recognize all of the mystery that's involved in these escape rooms. That idea of mystery is something that I think we struggle with sometimes when it comes to faith. I don't know that we're completely satisfied all the time with faith that has mystery. And sometimes we even think that faith shouldn't have mystery, that we need to figure it all out so there's no mystery left. Well, there's a story in the Gospel of Mark where Jesus and his disciples are walking. And Jesus asks them a question. He says, "Hey, who do people say that I am?" And they begin to answer. Some say you're John the Baptist, others say you're Elijah, some say you're another prophet. And then Jesus kind of turns it and makes it more personal. He says, "But who do you say that I am?" And it's Peter who kind of stands up and says, "You're the Messiah." And then in the next verse, though, Jesus begins to talk about how the Son of Man is going to have to suffer at the hands of the religious leaders, and not just suffer, but die. And Peter kind of pulls Jesus over the side and says, "Hey, come here. You know what? That's not what happens to a Messiah." And in that moment, Jesus says that famous verse to him where he says, "Hey, get behind me, Satan." See, in this moment, we see that the disciples and Peter had this idea of what they thought Jesus was going to be, or what they thought the Messiah was going to be. See, they were living under the oppression of the Roman Empire. And so they were looking for this Messiah. They were looking for this person who would come and be this warrior, this conqueror, who could set them free and liberate them from Rome. And now Jesus is talking about a suffering servant, someone who must die. And we see in this moment that there's this mystery in the kingdom of God, and that even the disciples and Peter, who spent their time with Jesus, could miss it. I think as we look at this story, there's a couple things that we can reflect on. The first is that idea of mystery. Like I had just said, faith is something that we don't always like mystery. We want faith to be something that we can just have this knowledge, or we can master faith, if we just get enough of the right answers. We think that if we do enough studying or maybe explore enough, that we can figure out all of the answers to all of the questions of faith. Like if we have a conversation with a friend or someone maybe who's challenging us or asking us questions, just inquiring, we want to be able to give them a good answer for every single thing. And we wouldn't want to say, "You know what? That's a great question, and that's a mystery to me as well." But in this story, we recognize that Jesus is inviting mystery in. In fact, in verse 30, after Peter rightly says, "You're the Messiah," Jesus' response is to be quiet. Jesus tells them, "You know what? Don't tell anyone." And in some translation, it says he sternly tells them not to let anybody know. It's like Peter gets the right answer, and we would think Jesus would be like, "Exactly, now go tell the whole world." But Jesus' response is, in essence, "Hey, shh, keep that to yourselves." And I think in that moment, there's a lot of things happening, and some scholars call it the messianic secret. But one of the things that's happening is we recognize that with the kingdom of God, there's mystery. And we don't have to be afraid of that, but we can embrace the mystery of the kingdom of God. The second thing that I see happening in this story is that the disciples missed it. I mean, they were with Jesus. They spent all of their time with Jesus. And they missed the kingdom of God. They were expecting, like I had said, this warrior and this conqueror who was going to come. And they missed what Jesus was doing and who Jesus was. They missed that the kingdom of God is about a blind man who can see, and a deaf man who can hear, and people who are hungry being satisfied. That the kingdom of God doesn't look like this conqueror or this warrior, but the kingdom of God looks like a suffering servant. That the kingdom of God breaks in at the most unexpected times, in the most unexpected places, through the most unexpected people. And so I think the questions we can ask this week are, how can I embrace the mystery of the kingdom of God? Maybe for you that'll be freeing, because you realize for the first time that you don't have to have all the answers, that you can just recognize that some things we don't understand, and there's just mystery, and that's okay, and we can just embrace that. I think the other question we should ask this week is, where's the kingdom of God present that I may be missing it? Where and who and in what situations may God's kingdom be breaking through, but because I have my mind set on something else, I'm missing it? And how can we find those places and people and times and really participate and join in on what God is doing? I hope you have a great week.